Hey, everybody, I'm Jake Milstein. I'm joined today by Mike Hamilton. And if you're following our page, you know who Mike is. Mike, founder of Critical Insight and former CISO of the city of Seattle. Usually we cover a ton of topics when we do these live updates, and we're on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn. But something urgent has happened, and we want to just talk about one thing today, which is the ransomware attack on Dallas. A couple of important things to know. So Dallas hit by ransomware, and it looks like right now the attack has not spread widely in the city of Dallas. It has affected 911 service, but not like the 911 operators can get calls. It's affected the CAD system.
It's dispatch, yeah.
Yeah, it's dispatch, right? And it took down the police department website, but police appear to be operating normally. Mike, what are you hearing about this attack?
Well, I mean the same thing that facts may change. It may end up being, more broadly disruptive than we think right now. But it doesn't look like, this is a soul crushing, loss of network thing. And as you say, it's limited to the police website. It's like, okay, big deal. I can't look up, mugshots of people that just got whatever.
Right,
But
right, right.
the thing about computer aided dispatch is a big deal because the dispatch goes right to a mobile data terminal, and that's where the officer sees it. And now they have to go back to the 1 Adam 12, 1 Adam 12, and I don't know if they all remember how to do that. So the likelihood is that some response times are going to be affected, and I'm sure they're going to measure these things, and I'm sure we're going to find out later. But there's way more information to come out of this. We don't know everything yet.
Yeah, and I mean, a couple other piece of information. The NBC station in Dallas is reporting that the city has a security operations center that's tools spotted the attack and that they were able to take action that prevented it from spreading, but that it's affected multiple parts of the network. Um, and when we say that they have a SOC, Mike, a city the size of Dallas, do they have their own SOC or are they
Yes.
outsourced? Yeah, they have their own SOC.
I would think.
So,
Well, I don't know that for a fact, but I would think that they have their own SOC. And
yeah,
I'm at the Association of Washington Cities right now, talking about how, especially the smaller jurisdictions, can get analysts, help them develop, retain them, keep them aligned with the mission. Because frankly, working in security in the public sector means you are protecting the things that keep us alive and keep our quality of life high. And that's a mission focus that people align with.
yeah, absolutely. And right now, this then Dallas isn't the only city. Oakland is in the middle of recovering
Mm.
from a ransomware attack as well. These are large cities that are getting hit. Mike, what as details come out about these things, what advice do you have for cities looking at this?
Well, I think it's the same thing we always say, right? You can only buy down risk so far through the application of preventive controls, right? Firewalls, email filtering, manage your vulnerabilities, train your users, blah, 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 blah. That only goes so far. This is a foreseeable event. The adversary is numerous, well resourced, and highly motivated. And, in the public sector in particular, it's very difficult to get those resources. So, uh, I like to think that we'll get to a point where smaller political jurisdictions can start to have these resources available, and we work on helping to make that happen. But in the meantime, the only way to address the impact, right, to minimize the impact after you've done all that prevention stuff, is to monitor the network 24 hours a day. And it's only through a managed service that you can do that right now. If you're not the Dallases, the Oaklands, the Los Angeleses of the world, right, the Seattles of the world, you're not going to have a SOC operation, and it's certainly not going to be 24/7. you know but you got to watch the network.
I
And
mean,
so
like, I mean,
this is what Dallas
yeah.
did properly, right? They identified it early, they quickly initiated instant response, they contained it so the city doesn't melt down. That's the way.
And it, looking at it from afar, it looks like it worked. I'm sure if you're in IT right now in the city of Dallas, you're not
Mhm.
exactly celebrating, but so far we haven't seen it spread, which is great news.
So
Mike,
far, this is a good story,
yeah,
honestly.
Yeah, and by the way, one other thing that I think is important to talk about, so we talked about their CAD system being down, dispatch system being down, which means that the dispatchers, when they get phone calls on 911, have to actually take paper notes and get on the radio and make calls, right? So that being true, um, I've also seen, we talk to a lot of cities, we talk to a lot of hospitals that have been hit by ransomware, and the number one thing we hear is everybody had to go to paper, right? Which
Hmm.
for some folks is a real shock. And that has to be part of your incident response planning.
Yeah.
Is okay, everybody has to know to go to paper. Let's do a drill where everybody goes to paper, because one of the things, Mike, we see is the actual, people who work in critical services industries, 911, hospitals, those things are very resilient people. They come to work because they love it. They don't come to work because it's like the greatest paying job in the world. They come to work because they love it. They're doing something good for the world.
Hmm.
Um, and that really needs to be part of your disaster recovery, your incident response plan, right?
Yeah, and in fact, I'll just tell you personally, if I had to go run and find a pen or a pencil, it would be hard for me to do. Right. I mean, so and making so I'm so to your point, right? Making sure that you have the appropriate supplies, forms, you know, uh, yeah, that's it. It's more, you could call it incident response or you could call it resilience,
Yeah.
right? It's the way to work through it, to get back to operational capacity as quickly as possible. If you got to revert to, number two pencil, have them on hand.
Yeah, and one of the things that we say to folks all the time is, you cannot just work on prevention, right? As Mike said, there's no 100% prevention. City of Dallas gets hit, Baltimore, Oakland, you know that LAUSD, which is the LA
Hmm.
Unified School District, all getting hit by ransomware. You know, you have to prepare for an attack with that incident response plan. You have to be able to detect one quickly, like it appears Dallas did here, right? It appears they
Yeah.
detected it quickly, and then you have to be able to respond. You have to have that security operations center. You cannot just say, hey, we're going to keep the bad guys out, right? And this is a really, really important thing for everybody to recognize.
I agree, and it's embodied in the mathematics of risk. But I don't think we need to go into that right now. But prevent as much as you can, but get ready to detect and respond.
Yeah, and so Mike, last thing here. So, if you're getting, if you're an IT director, we have a lot of IT directors who watch our page, who watch our videos and the like. So if you're an IT director and you get questions today from your electeds, or from anyone else, and you want to get ahead of that, Mike, what's the message?
Well, this is all about everything that you just said. It's about, practicing to take a punch. And I think when you reduce it to those terms, right, because elected officials don't understand our language, everybody's taking a punch. We have to be ready to take a punch. Do not fool yourself into thinking that we're just, as you say, it's going to keep the bad guys out of the network. This is going to happen. It could be turned into a tree falling into the forest very quickly, or it could be a disaster. And which one of those you get to pick through how you manage your own risk and how you resource those things. So, I would, when talking to elected officials, I would make sure that I used language that was appropriate to that audience, but let them know this is going to happen.
All right, everybody, thanks for joining us this morning, and have a good day. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to us. Mike is mkh@criticalinsight.com. I'm Jake at criticalinsight.com. And if you have any questions, we're here to help. Have a
Yep.
good day. Bye bye.
All right.